W5FC. Afterglow Movie Net, Saturday, 10:30 p.m., W5FC.
Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use a repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is Whiskey Bravo 5 Oscar Zulu Lima. My name is Brenda. I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. 1. General announcements. 2. Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. 3. National Space Society events. 4. Discussion topic of the evening. 5. What's up? 6. Space exploration and space history. 7. Constellation of the week. 8. Space launches of the week. 9. Recent astronomical discoveries. And 10. Visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. 11. Astronomical Q&A. And 12. 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So let's start with low power and short time check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, phonetically, your name, and your location.
Whiskey, Delta, 5, Baker, Papa, X-Ray, Hobby, Wills Point, Texas. W5, BLT, Whiskey 5, Bacon, Lettuce, Tomato, Bill. This is Kilo, Golf 5, Whiskey, Victor, Lima, James, and Carrollton. This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra, Gus, far northeast Dallas, low power 5-1.
Okay, for the first check-in, I didn't get your name, and I'm not sure I got your call right. What I got is WD5, B as in Bravo, P as in Papa, X as in X-ray. Would you please come back and confirm that and give us your name?
Whiskey, Delta 5, Baker, Papa, X-ray. This is Bobby, Wills Point, Texas.
Okay, I got WD5, Baker, Papa, X-ray, Bobby. Welcome to the net. Next, W5BLT, Phil. I hope that's Phil and not Bill, I couldn't tell. KG5, WVL, James, and W5GUS, Gus. All right, let's take general check-in.
This is Alpha Golf 5, Papa Mike. Rich in Rockwall, AG 5 p.m.
This is Kilo India 5, Gulf Romeo Hotel, Melissa in Dallas after Rich.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima. Once in about 600 years, partial solar or lunar eclipse earlier this week.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Ranch. Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-ray, Tom, Melissa. November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill in Irving with a different radio.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-ray, Kelly in Quinlan.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Echo India Uniform, David, St. Paul, Texas. This is
Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, Jay near Weather.
So this is Alpha Golf 9, Sierra Golf, Antonio in Oak Cliff.
All right, that's a good crop. We got AG5PM, Rick, KI5GRH, Melissa, KF5ZBL, Bill, KE5ICX, N5BB, Bill, K5KTX, Kelly, KG5EIU, David, AA5AH, Robert, KG5BZWJ, and AG9SG Antonio. Do we have any Echolink check-ins?
Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf, Joe in Arlington.
Okay, we have KG5ZMG, Joe. Okay, anybody else? Any other general check-ins?
Kilo India 5, Papa Whiskey November, Tom in Plano.
Kilo Golf 5, Uniform, Kilo Uniform, David, Mesquite.
KI5PWN Tom. And the next one I missed a prefix. David, if you'll please come back with that.
Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Kilo Uniform. David, Mesquite.
All right, got KG5UKU, David. Well, thanks to everybody for checking in. We'll do some more check-ins later. So, let's get started. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These could be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. Please come now. We have some nets during the week. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central, you'll need Echo Link installed and be registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website, which is amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. Dallas AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.88 megahertz PL, 110.9 megahertz, Tuesdays. Tom, N5HYP, is net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is DARC Club Night, so no AMSAT East that night. Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.14 megahertz PL, 110. Megahertz positive offset. The next, then we have the DARC hosted nets. On Mondays, the first and third weeks are the Ham Fixins net. Second week is MCOM 101. Fourth week GeekNet. Fifth week Surprise Net. If we told you what it is, it wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation is encouraged. Tuesdays, AMSAT East, 8 p.m. Fridays, Cert City simulation at 8 p.m. Learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa, KI5GRH, has usually been net control. Visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday. CERT City, all are welcome. Saturdays, TechNet at 7 p.m. And, of course, Skynet at 9. First and third Sundays, Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air, that's what we call BOTA. Then daily, the ARRL net, National Traffic Training System net, every night at 6:30 p.m. Central. All are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. All right, we have another net after this, something we call the Afterglow net, which is basically a movie review net. We have a movie assigned every Sunday. We watch it during the week, and on Saturday night we discuss it. So here is what Tom, KE5ICX, has written about this. It may or may not relate to the actual movie, but here it goes. Joseph Sullivan was your average sort of guy. He liked airplanes, movies, and, of course, killing Nazis. Unfortunately, this was before America's entry into World War II, so it seemed an awkward activity in those early days, but it would only be a matter of time before America would get into the air, and he had heard giant robots had taken to the skies. I hate giant robots, he thought to himself. His girlfriend waited for him at the Automat on 50th Street, and he ducked in just as she was about to order food. The advanced 20th century was achieved even for the average super New Yorker. Sullivan scanned the menu to ask his girlfriend, Polly Perkins, what she wanted. She, of course, ordered the most difficult thing on the menu, a roast beef sandwich with mashed potatoes. Sullivan took a deep breath and started the order-making process. He set the atmospheric pressure to 29.94, set the flaps to 5 degrees to enrich the fuel choke, because temperatures in the building were a little cool. It was a good thing he was a pilot. Other people in the automat were starving, unable to order food simply because all-important start procedures. The 20th century was very complicated for the average Joe, and to survive it, in it you have to be way above average Joe to survive. And then there was that whole thing with the robots they had to contend with. Join us for Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow, a 2004 movie, tonight at 10:30 p.m. You can keep up with all DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org. Okay, any more check-ins? Next up, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where one you can look through a telescope. This is usually done by Chaz, KF5JHA, but he hasn't checked in yet. Are you there, Chaz?
Yes, I am. I'm sorry. I've been busy on Echolink, so please check me in. The next Texas Astronomical Society club meeting won't be until next year. We don't have one in December. We just had one last night. We don't have one in December because we usually have a holiday awards banquet, and that'll be virtual. So we don't really have a meeting then. So Friday, January the 28th, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. I think it'll still be a Zoom meeting. Dr. Noah Pearson, I believe, from Montana State University will be the featured speaker. Past club members will receive an email link to the Zoom meeting in advance of the meeting. And Saturday night public observing sessions have been placed on hold because of COVID. One of the reasons why Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights was so that there was an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society public observing sessions that are held on Saturday nights. But of course, that's not happening. You can check the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. And I apologize for not checking in earlier, Brenda. Thank you. KF5JHA, back to net control.
No problem, all is well. Next, National Space Society events and activities. Bill, N5BB, to give us some news items.
Thanks. This is N5BB. I had some problems with, excuse me, my signal dropping out here recently. A few minutes ago I changed radios, so it's the same model but different instance, a different serial number radio. So please let me know about any dropouts at all of my RF signal during this transmission. I will not let up on the microphone button. So I'm the membership director of the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. Our normal meeting time is the second Sunday of every month at Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving. Because of the pandemic, we're currently in virtual mode, doing it on WebEx. So this last Sunday, November the 14th, we had a virtual meeting, and our speaker was somebody from Johns Hopkins University up in Maryland, who was one of the chief, in fact, he's the co-chief investigator for the DART mission, the double asteroid redirect mission that is going up soon, within the next few weeks, I forget the exact date of the launch, to try to impact an asteroid that's in orbit around another asteroid. It's a very neat mission. I did record that presentation. If anybody wants to see it, they can send me an email at space@byrom.net. That's SPACE at BYROM.net, or N5BB at ARRL.net. Also, let me know if you have any questions about the National Space Society and want to join it or our local chapter. Right now we have no other real in-person events because of the pandemic. That's all I have right now. This is N5BB. Thank you, Brenda. I hope I didn't drop out.
Oh, no, you sounded fine. I said, oh, do we have any more check-ins?
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, calling the street. 5, Golf Bravo Tango, Chris and Godly. Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John and Coppell.
Okay, we have November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay. And then, Chris, I completely missed your call sign. If you please come back, I'll turn my...
Five, Tango, Chris.
I'm sorry, I still didn't get that. Tom, could you hear him?
No, I missed it. I'm sorry.
Okay, Chris, let's try again, please.
India, 5, Golf, Bravo, Tango.
Okay, we got KI5, Golf, Bravo, Tango. Thank you, Chris. And then K5, JDW, John. All right, let's move into our program here. N5BB was talking about the National Space Society program. I also watched it, was very impressed, and so I decided to do my segment about it tonight. And I do have information on that launch. It's imminent on the 23rd at 10:20 p.m. It's going to be a SpaceX Falcon 9 launch from Vandenberg. So I guess it'll be televised. I think they do most of those. I'm certainly going to look for it. It's not way past my bedtime, but and nighttime launches are a lot of fun. All right, our discussion topic is the NASA's DART, that's D-A-R-T, Double Asteroid Redirection Test. And just kind of a fancy way of talking about asteroid billiards. They're gonna knock it out of the way, which is a crude way of saying we're just, if an asteroid looks like it's going to collide with us, we're going to go up there and move it. So at the last National Space Society meeting, we had a guest speaker named Andy Riskin, who works for Johns Hopkins, APL, on a NASA project to crash a spacecraft into a small asteroid to see what the effect is in case we ever have an asteroid on a collision course with us. Because you've seen all the movies, everybody has an idea. No, you can't just go pieces still on a collision course with you. So DART's target is the binary asteroid system Didymos, which means twin in Greek and explains the word double in the mission's name. Didymos is the ideal candidate for humankind's first planetary defense experiment, although it is not on a path to collide with Earth and therefore poses no actual threat to the planet. The system is composed of two asteroids. The larger asteroid, Didymos, which has add on, shortening the time it takes a small asteroid moonlet to orbit Didymos by several minutes. The Didymos system is an eclipsing binary is viewed from Earth, meaning that Dimorphos passes in front of and behind Didymos as it orbits the larger asteroid as seen from Earth. Consequently, Earth-based telescopes can measure the regular variation in brightness of the combined Didymos system to determine the orbit of Dimorphos. After the impact, this same technique will reveal the change in the orbit of Dimorphos by comparison to measurements prior to impact. The timing of the DART impact in the fall of 2022 is chosen to minimize the distance between Earth and Didymos to enable the highest quality telescopic observations. Didymos will still be roughly 11 million kilometers from Earth at the time of the DART impact, but telescopes across the world will be able to contribute to the global international observing campaign to determine the effect of DART's impact. The DART demonstration has been carefully designed. The impulse of energy that DART delivers to the Didymos binary asteroid system is low and cannot disrupt the asteroid, and Didymos' orbit does not intersect Earth at any point in current predictions. The change in Dimorphos' orbit is designed to bring its orbit closer to Didymos. The DART mission is a demonstration of capability to respond to a potential asteroid impact threat should one ever be discovered. DART is a spacecraft designed to impact an asteroid as a test of technology. DART's target asteroid is not a threat to Earth. This asteroid system is a perfect testing ground of intentionally crashing a spacecraft into an asteroid is an effective way to change its course should an Earth-threatening asteroid be discovered in the future. While no known asteroid larger than 140 meters in size has a significant chance to hit Earth in the next 100 years, only about 40% of those asteroids have been found as of October 2021. The DART spacecraft will achieve the kinetic impact deflection by deliberately crashing itself into the moonlet at the speed of approximately 6.6 kilometers per second. With the aid of an onboard camera, which they named Draco, D-R-A-C-O, and sophisticated autonomous navigation software. The collision will change the speed of the moonlet in its orbit around the main body by a fraction of 1%. But this will change the orbital period of the moonlet by several minutes, enough to be observed and measured using telescopes on Earth. Now, all this takes place next September. A few years after the impact, the European Space Agency's Hera mission will conduct a follow-up investigation of Didymos and Dimorphos. So, we don't have a date, September yet. The NSS has invited Dr. Rifkin to come back after this happens, speak again. You might want to think about checking out the meeting and see what the results were, because this is all pretty exciting. Okay, this is Steady B50ZL. Any more check-ins? All right, moving on. Chaz, KF5JHA, will present What's Up.
Hi, thank you, Net Control. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree's in astrophysics. I am in charge of the astrophysics lab and the geology lab at Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus. And we call this segment of Skynet What's Up. Slide Master, slide number 2, please. Yesterday, on November the 19th, the moon was full and there was a lunar eclipse. I'm going to pause right now. Does somebody want to talk about what they saw at the lunar eclipse last night? If you did, come now with your call sign if you have an idea or if you want to say something about the lunar eclipse.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo.
Kilo 5,
Juliet, Delta Whiskey. All right, Bill, you're the first on the runway. Go for it.
Thank you, Chaz. This is N5BB. Well, I set my iPhone alarm to come on first at, I think it was 1:30, which was when the first part of the direct shadow hit the moon. So I got just a little tiny sliver out of the moon, and I was able to get that actually on my iPhone camera. I took a picture, which I've sent to some other people, and you could actually tell that that little sliver was taken out. I then went back to sleep and woke up when the alarm went off the second time for the maximum part of the eclipse, and it was a partial eclipse, so the only piece that was still visible was the part that from our vantage point was roughly to our south. So the moon was over it was west of the zenith, but it was still way up on the sky. I'm going to guess it was at 65 or 70 degrees. I'm not sure the exact height. And like I say, the sliver that was still bright was on the south, from our vantage point, part of the moon. When you looked at it, because it was in the high in the western sky, it looked like it was on the left-hand edge. To me, the moon looked brownish ruddy, but it wasn't the blood red that you see when there's a total eclipse. So it looked red, but not really red. I was not able to get a good photograph of that. My camera, I just could not make it work on that lower intensity light. I did look at it also with some binoculars. It was perfectly clear. A beautiful night for doing it. In 5BB. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. I'm glad you got your radio fixed. Okay, John, you're number 2 on the runway. Go for it.
Yeah, thanks to the group. Yeah, what he said. I enjoyed the whole thing, actually. I went out probably every 30 minutes, every hour, and watched it from the penumbral all the way to the max. And you can get moderate pictures with an iPhone, but iPhones just don't do it. You know, take a real camera next time. I used to have a little G with a zoom, and that's really what you need, or a real camera that has a lens on it, or a real telescope. Anyway, that was it, I guess. Like you said, the atmosphere was super steady. I even tried downloading Yamera, which is supposed to give you total control over the ISO and all the stuff on your phone, but unfortunately it wanted access to all the stuff on my phone, and I wasn't going to allow that. So I got no great pictures of it. That's about it. K5, JDW.
Well, I've been really tired. Thank you, John. I've been really tired for putting up a lot of Christmas stuff up at work at Brookhaven campus of Dallas College over the previous couple of days. So I only got up right at the maximum, went outside, thought I saw the corona around it. Oh, wait, that's a little solar eclipse, isn't it? It must have been just blurry eyes. So it was a little bit after 3 when I went out there and took a look at the thin little sliver of light that was still left on the moon. 97% of the moon was in the umbral shadow of the Earth, which is the darker part of the shadow. All right. Well, thank you so much. So, yesterday was a full moon, and there was a lunar eclipse. So the current phase of the moon is a waning gibbous. Today, on November the 20th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point on the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth. On November the 27th, the moon is at third quarter phase. On December the 4th, the moon is at new phase. Also on December the 4th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth. and the moon is at first quarter phase on December the 10th. Okay, Slide Masters, slide number 3, please. The meteor shower on the night of November 20th, 21st is the Alpha Monoceroid meteor shower, which will peak with a few meteors per hour, but some more than 100 meteors per hour could be observed, but because the moon phase is so close to full, which was just yesterday, the fainter meteors will not be able to be observed, so only maybe a few will be able to be seen. Slide Master, slide number 4, please. On December the 2nd, there is a very wide conjunction of the moon and Mars in the early morning southeastern sky, around 6 a.m. Slide number 5. On December the 6th, in the evening sky around 7 p.m., look for the conjunction of the moon and the planet Venus in the southwestern sky. That's the bright thing you're seeing in the southwestern sky right now is the planet Venus just after sunset. It's beautiful. It's really bright. Give it another week or two, and you should be able to find Venus in the daytime sky while the sun is still in the sky, because it'll be bright enough by then. Slide number 6, please. On the very next night, on December the 7th, around 7 p.m., look for the moon and Saturn in conjunction in the southwestern evening sky. And the following night, on December the 8th, slide master number 7, at 7 p.m., you'll find Jupiter and the moon in conjunction in the southwestern evening sky. So a series of several different conjunctions on 3 consecutive nights in the first part of December is going to be great. All you need is a camera, and yes, John, maybe your iPhone should be able to take those pictures. This is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 8, please. Once again, the Texas Astronomical Society next club meeting won't be until next year, 2022, on January the 28th at 7:30 p.m. I believe it's still going to be a Zoom meeting. Dr. Noah Pearson, if I remember getting the name right, from Montana State University, will be the featured speaker. I didn't catch the topic that it was going to get. Let me see if I can find that out before next week. And it doesn't matter. It's still 2 months off anyway. TASS Club members will receive an email link to that Zoom meeting. And, of course, the TASS public observing sessions are put on hold due to COVID, but hopefully, maybe in another few weeks, we'll be able to start doing public observing sessions again. I hope so. TexasAstro.org is where you can find up-to-date information about the meeting and some public observing sessions. Slide master, slide number 9, please. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information, or do just have a general astronomy question? I don't know everything, but I may know the answer to your question, or maybe someone else here on the net will, might have the answer to your question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question. Okay, so as the moon wanes at the end of November, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. And until next week, actually I'll be doing another Skynet segment in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is Chaz, KF5, JHA, Backdoor Net Control. Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you very much, Chaz. This is WB50ZL. Next up, Space Exploration and Space History will be presented tonight by Kelly, K5KTX. Go ahead, Kelly.
Thank you, Brenda. This is K5KTX. Good evening, everyone. Well, video footage from NASA's Perseverance Mars rover of the Ingenuity Mars helicopter's 13th flight on September the 4th provides the most detailed look yet of the rotorcraft in action. Ingenuity is currently prepping for its 16th flight, scheduled to take place no earlier than today, and I don't have any word on whether it actually happens. But the 160.5-second Flight 13 stands out as one of Ingenuity's most complicated. It involved flying into varied terrain within the Seta geological feature and taking images of an outcrop from multiple angles for the rover team. Acquired from an altitude of 26 feet, the images complement those collected during Flight 12, providing valuable insight for Perseverance scientists and rover drivers. Captured by the rover's two-camera Mastcam Z, one video clip of Flight 13 shows a majority of the 4-pound rotorcraft's flight profile. The other provides a close-up of takeoff and landing, which was acquired as part of a science observation intended to measure the dust plumes generated by the helicopter. During takeoff, Ingenuity kicks up a small plume of dust that the right camera, or eye, captures moving to the right of the helicopter during ascent. After its initial climb to planned maximum altitude of 26 feet, the helicopter performs a small pirouette to line up its color camera for scouting. Then Ingenuity pitches over, allowing the rotor's thrust to begin moving it horizontally through the thin Martian air before moving off screen. Later, the rotorcraft returns and lands in the vicinity of where it took off. The team targeted a different landing spot about 39 feet from takeoff to avoid a ripple of sand it landed on at the completion of Flight 12. Though the view from Mastcam Z's left eye shows less of the helicopter and more of Mars than the right, the wide angle provides a glimpse of the unique way that the Ingenuity team programmed the flight to ensure success. It took off from the crater floor and flew over an elevated ridgeline before dipping into Seta. Since the helicopter's navigation filter prefers flat terrain, they programmed in a waypoint near the ridgeline where the helicopter slows down and hovers for a moment. The flight simulations indicated that this little breather would help the helicopter keep track of its heading in spite of the significant terrain variations. It does the same on the way back. It reinforces the accuracy of the modeling and the understanding of how to best operate Ingenuity. The wide-angle view also shows how Ingenuity maintains altitude during the flight. After an initial ascent to 26 feet altitude, the helicopter's laser altimeter notes a change in elevation of the terrain below as it heads northeast toward the ridgeline. Ingenuity automatically adjusts, climbing slightly as it approaches the ridge and then descending to remain 26 feet above the undulating surface. Once it flies to the right, out of view, Ingenuity collects 10 images of the rocky outcrop with its color camera before heading back into frame and returning to land in the targeted location. After Flight 13, Ingenuity went quiet in October, along with NASA's other Mars spacecraft during Mars solar conjunction, when the red planet and Earth are on opposite sides of the Sun, including most communications. Following conjunction, Ingenuity performed a short experimental flight test before undertaking Flight 15, which began the multi-flight journey back to the vicinity of Wright Brothers Field, its starting point back in April. And this is K5KTX for Skynet. And space history this week happened during this time frame. November the 16th, back in 1973, the third and final Skylab crew launched. Astronauts Jerry Carr, Bill Pogue, and Ed Gibson flew to NASA's orbiting workshop for a record-breaking 84-day mission. The mission offered scientists the chance to study processes on Earth as well as in space over an extended period of time. The crew performed dozens of experiments during their 1,214 orbits. The station was actually the upper stage of a Saturn rocket converted into living and working space for the astronauts on board. The station's orbit deteriorated and burned up on atmospheric re-entry on July 11, 1979. On November 17th, back in 1967, Surveyor 6 made history by becoming the first spacecraft to take off from the moon. Surveyor 6 had landed on the moon in the Sinus Medi region on November 10th. First successful lunar landing in the Surveyor program. On November 17th, its engines were fired for 2.5 seconds, allowing the lander to hop across the lunar surface 2.4 meters to the west. This hop provided provided new information on the effects of firing rocket engines on the moon, leading to the success of the Apollo missions. Also on November the 17th in 1970, the USSR landed the first roving space probe on the moon. The rover, known as Lunar 1, was delivered to the moon by Luna 17. Lunar 1 landed in the Sea of Rains on the lunar surface and was manually operated under the control of several Soviet drivers on Earth. The mission was officially declared complete on October 4th, 1971. However, the laser reflectors on the rover still work and were used in 2010 to pinpoint the location of Lunar 1. On November the 18th, back in 2013, the Mars Atmospheric and Volatile Evolution, or MAVEN mission launched to study the Martian atmosphere and climate. Specifically, the spacecraft set out to learn how Mars lost most of its atmosphere and water to space, resulting in today's Martian climate. On April 5th, 2019, the navigation team completed a 2-month aero-braking maneuver to lower MAVEN's orbit and enable it to better serve as a communications relay for current landers as well as Mars Perseverance. The spacecraft is continuing its science mission as well, with all instruments still operating and with enough fuel to last until at least 2030. On November the 19th, 1969, Apollo 12 made a pinpoint landing on the moon. Commander Pete Conrad set down the lunar module, call sign Intrepid, just 535 feet away from the Surveyor 3 probe that had landed on the Ocean of Storms in April 1967. This was the first, and so far only time, that humans have visited a previously landed mission. The mission was enormously fruitful, including an inspection of Surveyor 3 and the return of some parts. But this crew, which included lunar module pilot Al Bean and the recently deceased Dick Gordon as command module pilot, was especially known for doing their work with humor and a style of their own. Upon setting foot on the moon, Commander Pete Conrad's first words were, "Whoopee, man, that may have been a small one for Neil, but that's a long one for me." Later, he said that he did this to prove to an Italian journalist that NASA did not script astronaut comments. And November the 20th, 1998, the Zyra, the first component of the International Space Station, was launched on a Russian Proton from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, kicking off a new era in the human exploration of space. This was the first element in orbit, the Russian-built, U.S.-owned functional cargo block control module to provide the initial propulsion and power for the future space station. And then for this past week, we had a number of astronaut birthdays. Starting with November the 14th, we have 3 astronauts. In 1930 was the birth of Ed White, who was part of Gemini 4, and he was lost on the Apollo 1 fire. And then November 14th, 1933 was Fred Hayes, who was part of Apollo 13. And by the way, if you are on Facebook, if you're part of the Space Hipsters group, which I highly recommend, Fred Hayes is sometimes there making comments, so you might want to check it out. November 14th, 1956, Ken Bowersox, who was on a bunch of space shuttle missions, STS-50, 61, 73, 82, and 113 as part of Expedition 6. November the 15th, 1959, Timothy Creamer, who was on Expedition 22-23. November 16th, 1950, Carl Meade, who was on 3 space shuttle missions, STS-38, 50, and 64. And then November the 17th, 1944, John David Bartow, who was on space shuttle mission STS-51F. November 18th, 1923, Alan Shepard, Mercury Redstone 3 and Apollo 14. November 18th, 1951, Mark Brown, who was on 2 space shuttle missions, STS-28 and 48. November 19th, 1962, Nicole Stott, who was on Space Shuttle Mission STS-128, Expedition 2021, and Space Shuttle Missions STS-129 and 133. Also on November 19th, 1964, Nicholas Patrick, Space Shuttle Missions STS-116 and 130. And rounding out the group, November 20th, 1968, James Dutton, who was on Space Shuttle Mission STS-131. And that's what I've got this evening. This is K5KTX. Back to you, Brenda.
Thank you very much, Kelly. This is WE50ZL. Do we have any more check-ins?
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted Dallas, low power.
Kilo 5, Juliet Delta Whiskey.
Okay, we got WB4MFI Ted, and then K5JDW John. Although you checked in a little earlier, did you want to say something?
Sorry, I may recheck. I had a question.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, the Apollo group left a little reflector on the moon, and they pop it with lasers here on Earth to, see the exact distance of the moon. I was wondering if they still do that. K5JDW.
Good question. Does anybody have an answer?
KF5JHA.
KF5JHA, go ahead.
Yes, they do, and at least one of the locations is the original location is the McDonald Observatory. They don't use the same equipment, but they're still doing lasers from that mountaintop to this day. KF5JHA.
All right. Well, thanks for that answer. Anybody else have a comment? All right. It's time for Jazz again, KF5JHA, with Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Brenda, and thank you, John. That's what makes Skynet interesting is the back and forth where we have some questions and answers and comments and stuff, so thank you very much. Slide Masters, slide number 11, please. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week from almost its beginning in 2012. Yes, that's when we started in this early months of 2012. And she did that until May of 2019 with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen from Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire year, the entire sky in a year, excuse me. In her honor, we have continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is actually 2. Sculptor, the Sculptor's Workshop, and Phoenix, a very interesting bird. Slide Masters, slide number 12, please. All right, here's what you've been waiting for all night long, the jokes of the week. And you know they're related to the constellations of the week, so here we go. Did you hear about the explosion at the workshop where they made perfume? It blew up the olfactory. I thought that was funny, although some of you might think it stinks. What kind of music do elves listen to in Santa's workshop? Well, come on, someone on Echo Link can type this in pretty quickly. I'm sure you can. Come on. I'm rooting for you. I know you can come up with this. JJ, come on. Rap music. Okay, all right. He typed it in, but he misspelled it. Okay. What did every tool in the workshop want to be? Why did every tool in the workshop want to be with sandpaper? Because it was super fine. All right, let's get to the other constellation. What do you get when you touch a phoenix? You really need to know the story behind Phoenix to get this joke. What do you get when you touch a phoenix? Bird degree burns. See, phoenix is a bird that rose out of its own ashes, so it's a hot bird, I guess. What's a phoenix favorite snack? Firecrackers. Okay. And this is the last of my sequence. I thought my days of misquoting popular idioms were over. But I'm like a phoenix rising from molasses. Oh, did I misquote that? Yeah, okay, well, that was the joke anyway. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 13. Help me get out of this. I don't have the video link up tonight, but I'm sure that Tom is shaking his head. The Constellation of Sculptor was originally named the Sculptor's Studio or the Sculptor's Workshop, so that's what I'm calling it. The original name has since been just shortened to Sculptor. Alpha Sculpturus is it's a magnitude 4.3 star, and it has no proper name. It's really the brightest star in Sculptor, which is a dim constellation. The lack of bright stars in Sculptor is partly explained by the fact that it's near the South Galactic Pole. Actually, that lies within the boundaries of the constellation, so therefore it's as far away from the plane of the Milky Way as possible, making stellar density very low. Alpha Sculpturus is a blue-white giant star and is a variable star. Alpha is located about 780 light years from the Earth. R Sculpturus is a variable star also. Richard Allen, in his book Star Names, Names R Sculpturus, is described as an intensely scarlet variable and one of the most brilliantly colored stars in the heavens, with a period variability from magnitude 5.8 to about 7.7 in 207 days. R Sculpturus is also a carbon star, which gives it a red color. Slide Master, slide number 14, please. NGC 253 is the Great Sculptor Galaxy, and is sometimes referred to as the Silver Coin or the Silver Dollar Galaxy. It was discovered by Carolyn Herschel in 1783 and is about 9.8 million light years away. Burnham's Celestial Handbook calls NGC 253 one of the most prominent in the sky for a small telescope, and probably the most easily observed spiral with the exception of the Great Andromeda Galaxy, M31. Slide Master, slide number 15. NGC 300 is a spiral galaxy that's about 3.9 million light years away. It was discovered by James Dunlop and included in his 1827 catalog. NGC 300 is often called the Southern Pinwheel because it resembles M33 in triangulum, which is also known as the Pinwheel Galaxy. Stephen James Amira writes that NGC 300 is visible as a roundish glow in 7 by 35 binoculars from a clear, dark sky with unobstructed view of the southern sky. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 16. The Constellation of Phoenix lies in the southern sky. It is named after the phoenix, the mythical bird that rises from its own ashes.
The mythical bird Phoenix is known as the sacred firebird. Phoenix constellation is easy to see for anyone in Australia and South Africa during Southern Hemisphere summer, but generally can't be observed by anyone living in north of the 40th parallel and lies pretty low in the sky for observers north of the equator. But most of the constellation is above the horizon for North Texas. Phoenix is the 37th constellation in size and occupies an area of 469 square degrees. Alpha Phoenicius, I believe that's the genitive, Anka, I believe is the proper pronunciation of its proper name, is the brightest star in the constellation. Alpha Phoenicius is a spectroscopic binary star approximately 85 light years in distance. The system has the combined stellar classification of K 1/2 3b and a combined apparent magnitude of 2.377. The two components in the system orbit each other with a period of 3,848.8 days. Now that's pretty exact, isn't it? Or about 10.5 years. Primary star, as the spectral classification indicates, is an orange giant. Beta Phoenicius belongs to the spectral classification of G83 variable, has a visual magnitude of 3.32 and is approximately 198 light years in distance from our solar system. It is a binary star also. It's composed of two class G8 yellow giants with a apparent magnitude of 4.0 and the other one is 4.1. The two stars orbit each other with a period of 168 years. Slide Master, slide number 17. Now, last week we talked about Stephan's Quintet, which lies in Pegasus. This time we're going to talk about Robert's Quartet. It's a compact group of galaxies in Phoenix, approximately 160 million light years distance from the Sun, with a combined visual magnitude of close to 13. That's not very bright. The galaxies in this group are NGC 87, NGC 88, NGC 89, and NGC 92. They're located within an area spanning 75,000 light years. Four galaxies are in the process of colliding and merging. They were first discovered by English astronomer John Herschel in the 1830s. Slide number 18, please. The Phoenix cluster is one of the most massive galaxy clusters known. It is shown star-forming activity in the highest rate ever recorded in a galactic cluster, with the recent creation of 740 solar masses per year. Wow, that's a lot. The cluster is also emitting more X-rays than any other known massive galaxy cluster. There's a supermassive black hole at the core of the system that is growing very rapidly and expanding at approximately 60 solar masses per year. Currently, it is 20 billion times the mass of our Sun. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 19, please. I like that JJ. You know, one extra person, either a quartet or a quintet. It doesn't hurt the musical group. Okay. Oh, slide number 19. There are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the Constellation of Sculptor and Phoenix. I've just given you a sampling of a few of those objects. The Astronomical League has over 70 different observing programs, which have about 100 objects each. So if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin in about a year. And Slide Master, slide number 20. That is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, actually Constellations of the Week, Sculptor of the Sculptor's Workshop at Phoenix. That very special bird. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet night. And also at times I use the website constellation-guide.com for information. And the next time, I'll take a look at Cassiopeia, the Queen. We've talked about her in the mythology, and we'll talk about her next week. This is KF5JHA, sending it back to our net control, Brenda. Everyone have a good night. 73.
Thank you very much, Jazz. Next up, space launches for this week. I'm going to call on Tom, KE5ICX. What you got?
All right, thank you, Brenda. This is KE5ICX. Let's see, we got November 23rd, 24th overnight. We have a launch from Vandenberg Air Force Base from SLC-4E. SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch NASA's double asteroid redirection test. This is what you were talking about earlier. DART mission, NASA's first full demonstration for planetary defense. Mission seeks to test and validate a method to protect Earth in case the asteroid impact threat. The mission aims to shift the asteroid's orbit through a kinetic impact, specifically by impacting the spacecraft into a smaller member of the binary asteroid system Didymos to change its orbital speed. On November 24th, we have a Soyuz launch from Baikonur Cosmodrome, Kazakhstan. The Russian government Soyuz rocket will launch a Prikal module to the International Space Station. Prikal, also known as Yuzlovsky module, will launch with the Nauka multi-purpose laboratory module and be used as a docking port for visiting Russian vehicles. A modified Progress resupply ship will ferry the Prikal module to the space station. The rocket will fly in the Soyuz 2.1B configuration. On November 24th, 25th will be another launch. This one, Soyuz launch. This one will be from Plesetsk Cosmodrome, Russia. Russian government Soyuz rocket will launch from the Plesetsk Cosmodrome with an unspecified classified payload. Likely it is the EKS-5 early warning satellite for the Russian military. EKS, or Tundra, satellites fly in highly elliptical tundra orbits. The rocket will fly in the Soyuz 2.1B configuration with, everybody say it together, the Fregat upper stage. Then November 27th, we have an Electron Black Sky 1213 launch. The time to be determined. This will be from the Hia Peninsula, New Zealand, Launch Complex 1A. The Rocket Lab Electron rocket will launch 2 small second-generation satellites for Black Sky's commercial fleet of Earth observation satellites. Then on November 30th, December 1st, another Soyuz launch, this one from Saint-Mary, French Guiana. An aerospace Soyuz rocket designed VS designated VS-26 will launch on a mission from the Guiana Space Center in South America. The Soyuz will carry 2 Galileo full operational capability satellites for Europe's Galileo navigation system. This one will use the Soyuz 2.1B or STB rocket, which will use the Fregat upper stage. Then on December 1st, we have a Falcon 9 launch. This will be Starlink 4-3. This will launch from Space Launch Center 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch a group of approximately 53 Starlink Internet satellites. On December 4th, we have an Atlas V launch. This is from SLC 41 next door to 40, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. The United Space Alliance Atlas V will launch the STP-3 mission for the U.S. Space Force. This is a rideshare mission which will launch the STP-SAT-6 satellite and several small satellites. STP-6 hosts several payloads and experiments, including the National Nuclear Security Administration's Space and Atmospheric Burst Reporting Systems 3, or SABRS-3, payload, and NASA's Laser Communication Relay Demonstration, or LCRD, experiment. The rocket will fly in the 551 vehicle configuration with 5-meter fairing, 5 solid rocket boosters, and a single-engine Centaur upper stage. And we have time. I'll give you a couple others here. We have on December 8th, the Soyuz will a launch of the ISS-66S. This is from Baikonur Cosmodrome, Kazakhstan. Russian government Soyuz rocket will launch a crewed Soyuz MS-20 spacecraft to the International Space Station on a 12-day flight with cosmonaut Alexander Mishurkin and space tourists Yusuke Mizusawa and Yozo Hirano. The rocket will fly in the Soyuz 2.1A configuration. December 9th, we have the Falcon 9 IXPE mission from Pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center. Will launch NASA's X-ray Polarimetry Explorer. The IXPE exploits the polarization state of light from astrophysical sources to provide insight into the understanding of X-ray production in objects such as neutron stars and pulsar wind nebulae, as well as stellar and supermassive black holes. And then finally, on December 12th, there'll be a Proton launch. This one is from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. A Russian government Proton rocket will launch the Express AMU-3 and Express AMU-7 communications satellite for the Russian Satellite Communications Company. Built by ISS Reshcheny, the satellite will provide advanced communications, television, and radio broadcasting services for the millions of users in Russia and other countries. This is the Thales Alenia space supplied the telecom payloads on these satellites. And that's it from me, Brenda. Back to you, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Do we have any more check-ins? This is WB50ZL.
This is Kilo Golf 5 Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
Kilo Foxtrot 5 Papa Foxtrot Charlie, David, North Dallas.
Okay, we got KG5APL, Patrick, and KF5 PFC, David. Welcome to the net. All right, next up, I'm going to talk about recent astronomical discoveries. This is an article entitled Carbon Dioxide Coal Traps on the Moon Are Confirmed for the First Time. After decades of uncertainty, researchers have confirmed the existence of lunar carbon dioxide coal traps that could potentially contain solid carbon dioxide. The discovery will likely have a major influence in shaping future lunar emissions and could impact the feasibility of a sustained robot or human presence on the moon. In the permanently shadowed regions of the poles of our moon, temperatures dip below those in the coldest areas of Pluto, allowing for carbon dioxide coal traps. In these coal traps, carbon dioxide molecules could freeze and remain in solid form even during peak temperatures in the lunar summer. Future human or robot explorers could use the solid carbon dioxide in these coal traps to produce fuel or materials for longer lunar stays. The carbon dioxide and other potential volatile organics could also help scientists better understand the origin of water and other elements on the moon. Although coal traps have been predicted by planetary scientists for years, this new study is the first to firmly establish and map the presence of carbon dioxide coal traps. To find the coldest spots on the moon's surface, researchers analyzed 11 years of temperature data from the Diviner Lunar Radiometer experiment, an instrument flying aboard NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. The new research, published in the AGU journal Geophysical Research Letters, which publishes high-impact short-format reports with immediate implications spanning all Earth and space sciences, shows that these coal traps include several pockets concentrated around the lunar southern pole. The total area of these carbon dioxide traps Totals 204 square kilometers, with the largest area in the Amundsen crater hosting 82 square kilometers of traps. In these areas, temperatures continually remain below 60 degrees Kelvin. It's about minus 352 degrees Fahrenheit. The existence of carbon dioxide cold traps does not guarantee the existence of solid carbon dioxide on the moon, but this verification does make it highly likely that future missions could find carbon dioxide ice there, according to the researchers. I think when I started this, the question was, can we confidently say there are carbon dioxide cold traps on the moon? Said Norbert Schorghofer, a planetary scientist at the Planetary Science Institute and lead author of the study. My surprise was that they're actually definitely there. It could have been that we can't establish their existence. They might have been 1 pixel on a map. So I think the surprise was that we really found contiguous regions which are cold enough beyond doubt. The existence of carbon dioxide traps on the moon will likely have implications for the planning of future lunar exploration and international policy regarding the resource. If there is indeed solid carbon dioxide in these cold traps, it could potentially be used in a variety of ways. Future space explorers could use the resource in the production of steel as well as rocket fuel and biomaterials, which would both be essential for sustained robot or human presence on the moon. This potential has already attracted interest from governments and private companies. Scientists could also study lunar carbon to understand how organic compounds form and what kind of molecules can be naturally produced in these harsh environments. The carbon dioxide cold traps could also help scientists answer long-standing questions about the origins of water and other volatiles in the Earth-Moon system, according to Paul Hayne, a planetary scientist at the University of Colorado Boulder who was not involved in the study. Carbon dioxide could be a tracer for the sources of water and other volatiles on the lunar surface, helping scientists to understand how they arrived on the moon and on Earth. These should be high-priority sites to target for future landed missions, Haynes said. This sort of pinpoints where you might go on the lunar surface to answer some of these big questions about volatiles on the moon and their discovery from elsewhere in the solar system. All right, that is from an article from ScienceDaily.com. Okay. Visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. KE5ICX, do you have anything for us there?
Yeah, I do, Brenda. It's very limited, but I do have something. Let me go ahead and start. All of the usual passes, ISS, the space plane, you name it, nothing. The only thing I got is old reliable, which is the Envisat. This is the north-south environmental satellite that's been decommissioned, but it's so gigantic that it can be seen from our location here in Dallas. So I'll give it they're all north-south. There's GEO. This is a polar orbit satellite. So on November 22nd, we got a good pass, magnitude 3.0, 4:52 in the morning out of the north, reaches its highest point at 4:57 at 60 degrees, and it falls to at 5:02 out of the south-southwest. On November 25th, another good pass, 2.9 magnitude, 4:41 in the morning out of the north. Surprise, reaches its highest point almost overhead, 4:46 at 83 degrees, and it'll fall at 4:51 to the south-southwest. And then finally, November 28th, 3.2 magnitude. This one is at 4:29 a.m. out of the north-northeast. Surprise! Reaches its highest point at 4:34 at 72 degrees to the east-southwest, and it falls at 4:39 due south. And that's it. That's all I got. Everything else is just not in a favorable location to be able to reflect back and here in the Dallas area. Back to you, Brenda, KE5ICX.
Well, that happens sometimes. Okay, any more check-ins?
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
K5, JW, recheck.
All right, let me check in KB9 SOK Sean. So, go ahead, John. The recheck, lost your call here. K5 JDW, go ahead.
Yeah, quick question for Chaz, if you still have time. The frozen CO2 pockets on the moon, what is keeping that from sublimating unless it's continually forming or something, along those lines? K5 JDW.
I'm not sure about CO2. I know that there's some water pockets on the moon, and that could be evaporating, or I should say sublimating, into the, there's not an atmosphere. And those are very cold, so, and that's at the north and south poles in the craters that don't receive any sunlight. So it can exist there for a long time. And the reason why it's there is because of probably icy things hitting it, if you want to call them small comets, but they're probably more like asteroids that have ice in them. That's how they have gotten there. So I don't know about CO2, I'm not sure. Am I answering some of your questions, John? KF5JHA.
Yeah, thanks, Chaz. Possibly. I know it probably goes direct, but with all that intense, photons hitting the, no atmosphere, et cetera, and even, I didn't think about it being that deep where maybe nothing can get to it, but still, with no atmosphere, I would think it would go directly to a gas even easier, but just didn't think something like that could last long. K5JW.
Well, the temperatures there are below 250 degrees Fahrenheit, so we're getting very cold, so it doesn't have a lot of energy to even go into sublimation. So, yeah, it can stay as an ice for quite some time, just like comets out in outer space. They don't have too much sublimation until they get closer to the sun. Okay, I hope I've answered that. This is KF5, JJ, back to our night control.
Alrighty. Well, tonight we had 26 hams participating on the air. Thanks to all of you who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is WB5OZL, Brenda, and I will be closing the net at 10:24 p.m. local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 73, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. But wait, there's more. KCX, do you want to say anything about Afterglow?
Yes, Brenda, this is KE5ICX. We'll be doing the Afterglow movie net. We'll be reviewing the movie Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow from 2004, one of the first all-digital films that were done, that were production, release, everything on a green screen. It's actually a pretty interesting film, so we'll be back in about 5 minutes or 10:30. I'll be looking for somebody who'd like to be net control. If you would like to do that, just shout here anytime in the next 5 minutes. We're going to take about a 5-minute break, and we'll be back at 10:30. This is KE5ICX.
N5BB from W5GUS.
Hi, Gus. W5GUS. This is N5BB.
Hey, Bill. Good news. Not one dropout. Anything. A nice signal. The whole broadcast this evening on this net.
Well, I hope it was the radio. I guess we'll find out. N5BB.
Yeah, I bet it is. You could always put the old one back or the other one back in line and see if it happens again. But I'd say it's probably that radio. Anyway, I thought you'd like to hear that. It sounded good. N5BB, W5GUS.
Okay, thanks, Gus. See you, N5BB.
Normal state. Meeting on the air first and third Sunday, 7 p.m., W5FC.
We're a couple minutes away. Does anyone have, I don't know, would like to be net control tonight for Sky Captain the World of Tomorrow? You get to ask all the questions and comment on every single person's input if you feel so inclined. Does anybody want to be net control? Please come with your call.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Oh, man. Of course, we ran to the restroom, so I'll go ahead and do it again. This is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray. My name's Tom. We'll be doing the Afterglow Movie Net, which is the Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow from 2004. This is a science fiction adventure film directed by Cary Conran. It was his directorial debut, and it was produced by a few people. Started Jude Law, Gwyneth Paltrow, and Angelina Jolie. Yeah, her. Sort of a pre-World War II Austrian diesel punk. A very interesting look. I'm going to mention this because it's kind of interesting. Conran spent 4 years making a black and white teaser using a blue screen setup at his living room and a Macintosh 2CI. He was able to show it to Avnet. This is one of the companies who was so impressed that Avnet spent 2 years working with him on his screenplay. No other major studio was interested, but Avnet convinced Aurelio De Laurentiis, yes, part of the De Laurentiis family, to finance Sky Captain without a distribution deal. A worldwide distribution deal would later happen with Paramount Pictures. Almost 100 digital artists, modelers, animators, and compositors created the multi-layered 2D and 3D backgrounds for the live-action footage, while the entire film was sketched out via hand-drawn storyboards and then recreated with CG animatics. 10 months prior to shooting the live-action scenes, Conran first shot them with stand-ins in Los Angeles, then converted that footage to animatics so the actors could accurately envision the film. Sky Captain received largely positive reviews, particularly for the style of filming that was used. Most criticism was directed at the plot and characterization. Despite being a box office flop, generating only $58 million on a $70 million budget, the film has since gained a following, is regarded as a cult classic. It was one of the first major films, along with Casern, Immortal, and Sin City, to be shot entirely on a digital black backlot, blending actors with CG surroundings. All right, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to read about the plot. That's coming up here in a second, and then we're going to have a check-ins, and we will be discussing the plot and what you thought about it. When we do the check-ins, don't forget we'll ask you your call sign name and did you see the film. If you didn't, that's okay. You may find this steampunk, diesel punk thing kind of interesting and may want to relate to that, or mention Buck Rogers, which is always a popular throwback as well on this type of film, in this film style. And then that'll be the plot. Then we'll come back around on a second round after the check-ins, which will be the characterization and finally special effects. I'm sure we'll have a lot to say about particularly special effects. All right, so here we go. And this is KE5ICX. Here's the plot, and I'll try and paraphrase a little bit. It's actually fairly long for such a simple plot, but here we go. In a technologically advanced 1939, the Zeppelin Hindenburg III moors itself atop the Empire State Building. Aboard the airship is Dr. George Vargas, a scientist who arranges for a package containing 2 vials to be delivered to Dr. Walter Jennings. Afterwards, Vargas vanishes. Polly Perkins, a reporter for the Chronicle, is looking into the disappearance of Vargas and 5 other renowned scientists. A cryptic message leads to Radio City Music Hall against the warnings of her editor, Mr. Pally, where she meets Dr. Jennings during a showing of Wizard of Oz. She tells her that Dr. Tokikoff is coming for him next. Suddenly, a mysterious giant robot attacks the city. The authorities call for Sky Captain Joe Sullivan, the city's hero, Perkins' former lover, and the commander of the private air force, the Flying Legion. While Joe engages the robots with his modified Curtiss P-40 pursuit fighter, Perkins photographs from the street with little regard for safety. He eventually manages to disable one robot and leaves the rest leave thereafter. News reports show similar attacks around the globe. Polly follows and persuades Joe to reluctantly let her in on the investigation. Her information takes her to ransack laboratory of dying Dr. Jennings. Just before he dies, Jennings gives Polly 2 vials and states that they are crucial to Totenkopf's plans. She hides the vials. Joe and Polly find Dex tracks the origins of the signal controlling the drones and notes it on a map before his capture. Joe and Polly find Dex's map and fly to Nepal and then Tibet, where they discover an abandoned mining outpost and meet Joe's old friend, Kaji. 2 guides working for Totenkopf force Polly to turn over the vials, locking the duo in a room full of dynamite. Joe and Polly manage to escape just before the room explodes, knocking them unconscious and destroying most of Polly's film. They wake up together in the mythical Shangri-La. The Tibetan-speaking monks there tell Totenkopf's enslavement of their people, forcing them to work in uranium mines. Most were killed by the radiation, but the final survivor provides a clue to where Dr. Totenkopf is hiding. Joe and Polly finally find themselves on an island on their way there with dinosaur-like creatures, which Polly hesitates to photograph as she only has 2 shots left. They find a secret subterranean facility in a mountain where robots are loading animals as well as mysterious vials onto a large Noah's Ark rocket. Joe and Polly are detected, but Dex, flying a flying barge, arrives and the 3 are missing scientists. With 3 of the missing scientists, they explain Totenkopf was given up on humanity and seeks to start the world over again in the world of tomorrow. Vials are genetic material for the new Adam and Eve. The spacecraft reaches space, the afterburners will ignite in the atmosphere and kill everyone on Earth. As the group attempts to enter Totenkopf's lair, one scientist is electrocuted by the defense system. Alcoholic Graham of Totenkopf appears, speaking of his hate for humanity, and he plans to rebuild as a new master race. Dex disables the lair's defenses. The group discovers Totenkopf's mummified corpse inside with a scrap of paper clutched to his hand. Forgive me. He died 20 years previously, but his machines have continued as planned. Joe decides to sabotage the rocket from the inside while the others escape. Polly tries to tag along, but Joe kisses her and then knocks her out. Polly recovers, following Joe and saving him from Dr. Jennings' assassin, a female robot. Joe and Polly then board the rocket, but before the rocket reaches 100 kilometers, when a second stage is scheduled to fire and thereby incinerate Earth. Polly pushes an emergency button that ejects all the animals and escape pods. Joe tries to disable the rocket, only to be interrupted by the same assassin robot. He joins the robot with its electronic weapon and then uses it on the controls, disabling the robot. Joe and Polly use the last pod to save themselves as the rocket explodes. Joe and Polly watch the animal pods splash down around their escape pod while Commander Cook leads a group of flying aircraft carriers towards them. Polly then uses the last shot on her camera to take a picture of Joe rather than the animal pods. Joe notes that she has forgotten to take the lens cap off. Fade to black, the end, movie over. Okay, and with that, you've heard the synopsis to the Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow, a 2004 all-digital film, but with real actors in front of digital stuff. So I'll go ahead and take check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see Sky Captains of the World Tomorrow? I'll take check-ins now. Here we go.
Bill 55, Bravo, Bravo, Bill and Irving.
Get Tom to faint. KF5, JHA, Chaz. Yes, I've seen it.
W5 BLT, W5 Bacon, Lettuce, Tomato, Bill. Saw the movie.
Inside BB, Bill and Irving. Yes, I did see the movie.
Okay, let me disconnect discombobulate a little bit. I think I got 3 out of that. I got N5BB. Bill, yep, he saw it. KF5JHA, Chaz is staying up tonight. He saw the film. And W5BLT, I got Bill. He also saw the film. Additional check-ins, please come out.
Whiskey 5, Echo Bravo Bravo. David in Dallas, yes, I saw it.
Oh, Golf 5, Bravo Zulu. Whiskey, Jay near Weatherford, yes, I saw it.
Okay, that KG5B said WJ near Rutherford. Yep, he saw the film. Do we have anyone else? I'm going to go over to Echolink here. Anyone on Echolink who would like to join us? I see most. There's one more in there. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign, your name. And did you see Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow? Echolink only. Okay, do we have any final or additional check-ins? I shouldn't say final. Additional check-ins, please come with your call sign, name, where you're did you see the movie? We'll do it right this time. Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see the movie Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow? Okay, I'm sure others will join us. We started a little earlier than we normally do, so we'll come back to additional check-ins towards the bottom of this list. I'm just going to go in order. We have Bill, N5BB. Bill, you saw the movie. What did you think about the plot from KE5ICX?
Okay, Tom, this is N5BB. Well, this is kind of a comic book plot. It's I don't really consider it exactly serious science fiction. I think it's more of a comic book kind of plot. That kind of science fiction. I liked it. There are some things, of course, in it which don't make much sense because it is a comic book kind of plot. Some things that are very unlikely, like how to get that plane all the way over, and he nearly got right there to the Himalayas. How did he do that? Did he have to fuel it up? I mean, that plane didn't look like the kind of plane you'd want to fly over the Atlantic Ocean. But anyway, a lot of other things in the plot about the fact that the plane was damaged, and then shortly afterwards it was flying again, and they didn't show them gassing it up or repairing it or anything because the base had been all shot up. I don't think there was anybody there to do work on the airplane. But anyway, be that as it may, those plot holes, the general line of the plot was rather pleasant. It was kind of enjoyable. You kind of wanted to know what happened at the end. I was still a little confused about exactly how he was going to kill everybody on the Earth. And kind of a weird plot twist at the end where his henchwoman was actually a robot and that he had been dead for, 16 years or something. And then she was just carrying on in his stead or something. I don't know where he got the money and the resources to do everything he did. And the idea of these huge monster machines as tall as a building, that would have taken a huge amount of resources and effort to build. So, I don't know. That didn't seem very reasonable to me. How would he get all those resources into the Himalayas without being discovered? You'd think the supply chain would have somehow, and satellites would have shown people that's where he was. Oh, excuse me, no satellites. I can't say that. Sorry about that. No satellites back then, but you'd still think that they would have somehow discovered it with overflights or something. But maybe not. All in all, I thought it was with those holes, ignoring those holes I mentioned, it was okay. In fact, BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. That's always my complaint with any of the James Bond films with supervillains and their gigantic glares. How come the local people never notice the giant semi-trucks coming through town with the big superstructure that you got to put in for the underground base, the rocket base, all of that? And this film, of course, took it to the nth degree as well. Of course, it's a technologically advanced 1939. Maybe we didn't see everything we needed to see about heavy lifts and, giant propeller sky cranes and things that probably exist that we never saw. Plus the robots themselves. Who builds those? Ford? Oh, well. Okay. Okay, next up is Chaz, KF5JHA. Chaz, you must have taken a nap. You're going to be up late tonight. What did you think of the plot to Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow from KE5ICX?
Mr. Net Control, thank you so much. I like this movie so much that I usually watch it annually for the last many years. I know I'm only supposed to talk about plot right now, but the feel of the movie with the sepia tone, I guess. You had described the process, but it wasn't color, but it wasn't black and white either. But anyway, that just gave it a different feel. I like what Bill said. It does have a comic book character kind of feel to it. The reporter reminds me of Lois Lane, but actually another character, Polly Perkins reminds me of Sweet Polly Purebred from... Okay, well, it does. Anyway, maybe that's where the name came from, because Underdog was before this movie. Anyway, I do like it. A flying platform in the sky from where airplanes come from, that's awesome. There's all sorts of different things. And it's science fiction. We can have a lot of things that we don't explain in it, and that's okay with me. Anyway, I do like the movie. That's the reason why I stayed up late, just so I could say I've seen it, and I do like it. And I'm here to listen for a little while. I'm not sure if I'll be around on the next check-in, but maybe I will if I'm not falling asleep. KF5JHA, back to our Net Control.
All right, thank you, Chaz. Yeah, if you see, and this is kind of interesting, is if you get to see there's the 5-minute demo film, or really it's 10-minute demo film. It's available on YouTube. It's done in black and white, and it's done as the chapter 1 of a series of chapters, of a serial, which is kind of cool. And in fact, the first opening sequence is identical to the sepia tone that you get in the actual movie later on. So it was a lot of fun. The guy was an interesting director. He kind of disappeared after all of this, unfortunately. I don't know what he's doing now, but not much, apparently. Next up is Bill, W5BLT. Bill, you saw Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow. What did you think about the plot from KE5ICX?
You know, I just thought it was a fun movie. It was one of those where you could just watch it and be entertained, zone out. The plot was, you know, kind of predictable. They had that fun sort of comic book superhero feel. And while it was predictable, it was, for me anyway, it was still fun, just to relax and you know, just one of those movies where it wasn't serious, kind of tongue-in-cheek jokes going back and forth, and you know, I love the good serious movies and those that make you think, but sometimes I just like to sit down and watch a fun movie, and so for me this was fun, and I came for the popcorn and enjoyed myself. W5BLT.
Thank you, Bill. I would agree with you on that. It was a lot of fun to watch. Next up is W5EBB. David. David, you saw the film. What did you think of it?
Well, thanks, Tom. Yeah, I saw it once again this week, and you know, saw it 10 years ago or so, and you know, I liked it. It's a fun movie. What more can you say? It's got kind of a feel of like a Flash Gordon, or the plot of the Moonraker, the James Bond movie, and the action and pace of a Raiders of the Lost Ark, and obliquely Marathon Man. But the pace is fast, really fast, and you barely have time to get used to a particular setting when they change venues completely, which, you know, appeals to the ADD generation. It's a good movie-making strategy. And one thing that's also kind of fun about it is there's lots of references or nods or tributes to other movies. And Tom, maybe you can tell me in movie speak what those are really called. Not really Easter eggs, but here are some examples. When they land on Angelina Jolie's aerial platform, you hear the controller say, "Clear to land on platform 327." Well, that's also the platform number used in Empire Strikes Back for Cloud City, clear to land on platform 327. It also appears in Star Wars as Clear Bay 327 into the Death Star. And after they destroy the likeness of Laurence Olivier, or the Wizard of Oz, Jude Law says Jude Law says, "Is it safe?" And of course, that's a nod to Marathon Man, which Dustin Hoffman would have said, "Yes, it's safe. It's very safe. You wouldn't believe how safe it is." But that's more characters. But you know, it's a fun movie. It delivers on, you know, what it intends to do, and it was fun to watch. W5EBB.
Yeah, thank you, David. And I don't know of a different name for it. I think it's still called an Easter egg. A lot of times it's, you know, refer back to other movies. And I noticed that as well. The apartment that they go in is 1138 to find the missing scientist. And of course that's a reference to THX 1138, the George Lucas film that was actually another one of those films too, one that he did as a student, I think UCLA, and then turned into a full motion picture. So yeah, that was the one I noticed. I was probably too dense to notice some of the others that were in there. I usually have to go and find the cheater film parts of it to find them. And I bet you, I'm not entirely sure, but I'll bet you'll find probably there's some visuals in there as well. So go back and look. Now that you mentioned that there were others, then I'm probably going to go and seek them out because they're a lot of fun. All right, let's go on to Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, what did you think about the plot for Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow from KE5ICX?
This is KG5BZW. Yeah, I can say I'm that big a fan. I will say that it had not been more fun for me had I caught more of these little Easter eggs that W5EPP was talking about. I mean, there's not. I mean, the one Easter egg that I thought about was when the robots were coming down to the city and they fired their head weapons. I'm not sure if it's when the day what is it the day the world stood still, or if it's War of the Worlds, but the sound effect was like from one of those classic movies, or it very well emulated. I won't say it was exactly the same, but it seemed very much a reference to. So I might watch it again for references like that, although I'd probably just rather read the Cliff Notes of somebody that's already done it. I just couldn't get over the really kind of the dialogue between Paltrow's character and Jude Law's character just was so given better. I don't think it was necessarily chemistry or anything. I think the dialogue was just not really that good for them. And I kind of cringed a little bit every time I heard some. There's some interactions. I mean, it's. I don't know. I felt like conceptually there was some. Yeah, you could kind of compare it to like Indiana Jones and all that in terms of pacing and going from place to place. But there's just things that like the battle scene where the aircraft becomes a submarine. Okay, forget the fact aircraft and submarine physics and all of that. The aircraft was it had some considerable damage, but still it was apparently good enough to have no waterproofing issues or whatnot, and that just most airplanes. I mean, no, just the whole transition there. I don't know. If I could put myself in the frame of 8-year-old or something, I guess it's cool. But it's just the whole. I think about the physics of it too much, and just how I have. It's just oh God. I mean, I'll grant it's a very imaginative and it's got the whole comic book feel to it, but I wish it could have explained itself a little bit better along the way. KG5EGW.
All right, thanks, Jay. Next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Miss Brenda, your thoughts on the plot from KE5I6.
This is WB50ZL. Well, I enjoyed this movie a lot. I had never seen it or even heard of it. But I love the 30s and Art Deco and action movies. You kind of had to suspend your belief that a P-40 is going to do all that one would do, or flying robots. But that's okay. It's a cartoon. We can do that. I didn't see anything particularly wrong with the plot, other than, it had a few little minor holes, but nothing really major. Not to me. And I thought it moved along a pretty good clip. There was a point when I said, Okay, enough action-adventure. Let's wrap it up or talk or do something else, but that's just me. All right, back to net, WV50ZL.
We're zooming through this one tonight. Okay, well, let me see here. Do we have any additional check-ins? Anybody like to join us? Tonight's movie that we're discussing is Sky Captain and the World Tomorrow, film that it supposedly took place in 1939. It sort of is an homage to the serial movies that were done back then, like Flash Gordon. To have additional check-ins, please come with your call sign name. And did you see Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow from 2004?
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I've seen the movie.
We picked up one more, KB5SOK. Sean, okay, we're at the beginning. I know you're probably on late net. What did you think of the plot to this particular movie from KE5ICX?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, my opinion might be a little bit, maybe many viewers or listeners on here may not be too happy with me. I actually really didn't care for this film. There was, and I don't mind a comic book style film, but for me, the look, I know this is kind of a third round kind of thing, but to me, the effects looked to me so bad that it just took me out of the storyline. I just could not get into it, and I'm generally not a fan of a mixture of live action with, basic, very basic digital effects. Like the 300, I didn't care for that movie either because it was just, to me, it just looked so fake. It was hard to get into it. I was actually kind of excited to see this because I hadn't seen it, and I liked the punk style look and thought that there'd be a lot of potential there. Was just kind of disappointed overall. The storyline was very basic. Nothing wrong with that for an action film. But yeah, there's pretty much a plot hole in pretty much just about every scene because it's just, But once again, you got to kind of suspend your belief because it's just a comic book style film. But everything just seemed very predictable. I mean, you knew in the end that they would get together, the love interest, and it just like every scene was just seemed like it wasn't really that surprising. So yeah, just overall, it was just to me, it was just very distracting. The look of it, it was just so dark and it just I don't know, it was just a weird one for me on this one. I was excited to see it, but overall was a little disappointed. Back to net, KB9SOK.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Sean. I guess my turn. I had mixed feelings about the film as well. Now, I did go out, and when this movie came out, I actually bought the DVD because that was what was available. I was suitably impressed with it. I am also a fan of Art Deco stuff, so that super look was kind of fun. The sepia tone thing and that kind of weirdness to it, that was relatively novel at the time that this movie came out. Of course, there were many films, and you mentioned several of them. Sin City reminds me of it. The 300, 300, I guess it is another that's like that. There have been a few others similar that where they've done that look, and it can be distracting to some. Mirror Darkly is another that has kind of that look, although that's more of an animated look. I don't mind it so much. You can kind of get used to it after time, but it does have that kind of weird vibe to it. And if you're not into it or you're not used to it, it can be very distracting. The plot itself is a bit thin. Like most of the serials, like you see, it just isn't going to go and scratch the the surface too deeply. Some of the lines and things were kind of silly. Again, it's that comic book type thing. It's meant to be kind of pointed humorously at, a bunch of kids, 12-year-olds that would go and see the movie and spend their 50 cents or 25 cents to get into the theater, eat a bunch of candy, and have a sugar attack while they're watching the film with their friends. And I think that's the vibe that they're trying to create. So what is the thrust of the film? Well, I think it's the technical expertise that this director was trying to do. This is what he wanted to do. This is what he was trying to project. The movie story really is the sensibility of a high-tech 1939. That's what they're trying to project, and that's what it's all about. There is no World War II. We have the supervillain 007 style. We have a Hindenburg. It looks like they just kept building bigger and bigger ones as time went on, so the technology was really super, and everybody just took it for granted. And I think that was the thing that you were supposed to be amazed with, and that's what I was amazed with. It was a little different style of film than I was used to seeing, in the sense that we were actually trying to project a revisionist history in a jovial way, just like we would see it in a movie theater at the time. So I enjoyed that. The Wizard of Oz, I mean, at the beginning is an homage to that. Certainly that's what they're trying to tell you. It's a whole different world. A world of tomorrow, today. Now when you look at it, you say, okay, fine. Does it fit an hour? What was it, an hour and a half long? Actually, for what was in it, it was a lot of action. That was pretty cool. I enjoyed that. But it was so much action and so little plot that it was driving me nuts to a certain extent. So, who was it? Cox? What was the name of the guy? Oh, well, we'll come back to him in a little bit. Let's see, what else I was going to say. I'll vamp a little bit here. There are other Easter eggs. In fact, if you go to eggs.com, that's with two E's, EEGGS.com, there's a website for everything. You can go and find Easter eggs on everything from software, movies, music, TV show, book, art, and you can post Easter eggs from any of these media, and people will actually vote on it and check it to make sure that you're accurate. So when you're not working on your trans-dimensional time machine, you can go here and do it with films. So they do mention several of them. The one that I did not see, I did not expect, is this War of the Worlds. There's a scene where the giant robots first appear. Polly's in a phone booth describing the robot's advance. Her words and descriptions are the same as those used by the radio announcer in Orson Welles' radio drama, War of the Worlds, as the Martians invade. Let's see, we also have the door number I mentioned, 1138, homage to George Lucas's first film for Dr. Walter Jennings' house. King Kong appears during the first attack of the New York City with the robots. The Empire State Building is seen in the background, and there's shots. If you look, you'll see King Kong climbing. There's also Godzilla appears in the newspaper when they go and they show multiple attacks around the world. Godzilla appears in the Japanese newspaper. And then here's one that I should have seen. It was hidden in plain sight. I saw it. I was racking my brain trying to remember what the heck it was. It's the ray gun. Dex's ray gun is the same ray gun from Forbidden Planet. Oh, how could they show that and I not notice it? Oh, well. All right. Let me see. Are there any additional check-ins at this point before we continue? Please come to your call sign name. Did you see Sky Captain and the World Tomorrow from 2004? going to be a quick one tonight. We don't have our usual crew, so we'll start at the top. Bill, N5BB. Bill, tell us about characterization.
Oh, this is N5BB. So you don't, well, this is a comic book kind of movie. So you don't expect to get really deep things except comic book deep things about the characters. So Polly, you know that she is a reporter, and you meet her boss, and you know that she had met Joe several years ago over in Japan, or China, now I'm forgetting which, over in the Far East. But, and they knew each other and had a little fling of some type, but you don't know anything else about her. I guess you see her driving at one point, but you don't really know anything else about her. And you know even less about Joe. Or I would say, you know that he's involved with this group of Sky Captain Flying Legion thing, but I saw nothing that described how, why, what, where. It was just, it's just that way. That's just the way it was. You didn't find out about his past or anything other than that fling over in the Far East. So, I don't know. I wish they'd put a little bit more in, just a tiny amount, you know. But, again, it's a comic book movie. They concentrate on action and don't concentrate on anything they don't need to. I didn't understand really why Dr. Toten, whatever, the bad guy, why he, Dr. Totenkampf, which means in German, evil head or something like that. You don't really learn why he was doing this. I mean, they kind of throw a little bit about him wanting to create a new Earth, but that doesn't really describe why he wants to get rid of the existing Earth and the people on it. So, I don't know. That wasn't really described well enough. Uh-oh, I was transmitting too long. My radio timed out. But I don't think I timed out the repeater. This is N5BB. I guess I'm talking too long. And the Angelina Jolie character was pretty cartoonish. You know, she had romantic, some kind of fling there with Joe, but they didn't go into much depth in any of that or anything about how she was involved with that group over there. Was she British? I guess. They were kind of a British group. The nationalities were a little bit kind of weird here. The Germans didn't seem to be starting World War II in 1939 in this alternate reality. I thought it was interesting that they were showing The Wizard of Oz. This is N5BB, the break there, because that gave them a chance to put this bright color on the screen. Well, the rest of the movie was pretty drab, kind of a steampunk 30s look, noir look. There's one other, there were, like you say, a number of Easter eggs. There's one other little thing, not quite an Easter egg, but a little detail. I don't know if you noticed. When they come up out of the water on in their airplane, in the layer of the area where the evil guy is, you'll notice, or the Shangri-La kind of area, she sees the reflection of the tail number of the airplane, and it's Polly, P-O-L-L-Y. Now, if you look at it straight up, the H wouldn't be lowercase, so I thought that was kind of goofy. But that was a little thing they threw in there so she knew that Joe really did like her. That's all I got in FABB.
Okay, very good, Bill. And yeah, I noticed that too. That was kind of fun. Next is Chaz. Maybe he's still there. He might be. KF5JHA. Your thoughts on characterization from KE5ICX.
I am still here. And I still want to talk about the connection between Underdog and the reporter there, Sweet Polly Perfect, and Polly Perkins. I think that's where they got that from. Yeah, okay. And Sky Captain, looks like he had a couple of different sidekicks. Dax reminds me of Q in the 007 movies. How about anybody else? Does it have a feel to it too? Yeah? Because he had all sorts of inventions and stuff. And of course, Frankie was his other sidekick too. So anyway, yeah, cartoon. It reminded me of comics. And for me, I did like it. It did have a good feel to it. And I did like the non-full color feel to it. It just felt good to me the way it was portrayed. So anyway, KF5JHA, back to net control.
All right, thank you, Chaz. Next up, W5BLT. Bill, your thoughts on characterization.
Not much to add. I have to confess, I spent about 10 minutes researching because I thought this was a sequel because they didn't do a good job developing the characters. I spent about 10 minutes trying to see if there was a movie before this one, a prequel. But not much to add to what's been said. I was confused about whether or not there just wasn't enough past put in there, but it was an action movie. So W5BLT.
Okay, very good. Next is David, W5EBB. David, I know you got something on characterization. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
Well, thanks, Tom. Polly Perkins, Vicky Vale, Lois Lane. Must all these female characters be alliterative? Okay, that looked better on paper than it sounded. But no, alliterative names for these characters just give you a heads up that this is just going to be kind of a silly character. And, Gwyneth Paltrow, her character's expression spans the gamut in the range from annoyed to fussy. But I know she was probably directed to downplay the role in that way. And, it's funny, like when she's in the backseat of the plane, they're pulling like 50 G turns, and her hair stays perfectly in place. And I think that's just deliberately being playful, not taking itself too seriously. And, of course, no one lunges forward in their seat when they smash their planes into the water. They must be equipped with diesel punk inertial dampers. Now, Jude Law and Angelina Jolie, did anyone else kind of notice how they look a lot alike? And they almost look like they're related. They could be their body doubles or, stand-ins for each other. With the right makeup and hairstyle and eye patch, yeah, they could pull it off. But the characters are obviously one-dimensional, and actually they look that way too against the CGI background. But it was in its infancy. But more on that in the special effects discussion. But the characters fulfilled their roles as silly but fun as they were. W5EBB.
All right, thank you, David. I knew you'd have some additional stuff, even on our one-dimensional characters. KG5BZWJ, your thoughts on characterization. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
All right, KG5BZW. Before we get on the characterization, I almost feel like, I don't know, I almost want to call this a movie a little bit different than a comic book movie, because there have been a number of comic book inspired movies that are, actually kind of serious and very thoughtful in their plot development. Like Road to Perdition, 2002, Hank Films, Tom Hanks film. Sorry, I get my tongue twisted here. But it's like I was really surprised when I learned that film was actually developed from the comic book of the same name. And that film, I haven't seen it since I first saw it, but I was very impressed with it in terms of just the whole thing, not just the plot and everything, but okay, going back to this film. I know there is a different, I guess, aura or whatever you want to call it. Just the more silly serials that you would find back from the 30s and all of that, where you have to pay that much attention, and it's not exactly, the audience isn't necessarily, well, I won't say that it's not for adults. It's just not. It's I don't know what to call it. It's just kind of silly, goofy, fun. But just I don't know what it was about these characters. Like I mentioned before, the difference between Sky Captain and I've already forgotten her name. I'm remembering some of the other names that y'all mentioned. Whatever, Paltrow character. I just irritated me. I don't know what reason. And I've seen him in their films, and I thought he was actually a pretty decent actor, Jude Law does. But here, it's just, I don't know. And yeah, of course, everybody's already mentioned just the whole setup is, there's going to be, it's one-dimensional for most of the characters. I have to admit that the twist at the end of the evil Agnes actually being dead, and his partner, well, I don't know if that was his partner or if it was his partner he created, the assassin. That was kind of cool, but there's just not much really to say. And what I would like to say that's good, I just can't call it good. I just can't. KG5BTW.
Okay, thank you, Jay. And this is KE5ICX. We're talking about Sky Captain and the World Tomorrow, the 2004 film. Next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Miss Brenda, your comments on characterization.
This is WB5OZL. Well, I agree with David that these are very one-dimensional characters, but I think that was by design. It's just like part of the landscape or the decorations. They were Art Deco people, and we're not developed to be complex individuals. They're comic book characters. Nevertheless, they were very attractive, and the little romance interplay with Polly and Joe, it did work. It's kind of cute, and certainly credible actors, and Angelina Jolie as well. Although I thought hers was a weaker character, but they're all really good actors. I didn't quite understand why this first-time director managed to pull all of these people together into this movie and the budget. Not really sure how that works. Usually you have to prove yourself first, and people won't sign on to something unless it's you got a tried and true director with it. But I'm sure there's some story there. There were some contrivances, I think. Having them all wake up naked in a bed, that was kind of lame. Or her wearing high heels everywhere. That was stupid. And they have her, she's this hotshot reporter, but they don't really ever let her be real bright. But, she must be, if she's a reporter. But she's just kind of the pretty face, the window dressing. Of course, she's a good hero with the plane. I didn't quite get this P-40 being the way it was, flying to Nepal without refueling. Well, maybe they did refuel, but still. In 1939, I don't know where you get fuel in Nepal. It was a pretty airplane, though. And I didn't understand landing the Hindenburg on the top of the Empire State Building. It would be a really hostile atmosphere with the winds and the cold and everything. And getting the people out and into the building, that would be extremely hazardous. And I've seen Zeppelins tethered like that, but I don't recall ever seeing this kind of an operation. Maybe I'm wrong, don't know much. Yeah, the machines were definitely part of the characters as well. The robots and the airplanes and everything, and they added to it a lot. I really just enjoyed this thing so much, just because it was a good romp. A little more characterization would definitely have improved this movie. But you think about Indiana Jones, you got the same kind of a thing, the 30s look and the action adventure, but the characterization was just so much better. So I think they tried. They didn't quite make it. There's just some element in this movie that's just not quite there. It was close, and that's why it wasn't a great movie. I don't think the critics liked it much, and certainly was a flop at the box office. Okay, back to net, WB5OZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. And about that Empire State Building mast, that actually was a Zeppelin mast, amongst other things that they did. I think it was a publicity stunt. They had always talked about potentially doing that, but just like the Pan Am building was just not a really good idea to land stuff on top of it. The same thing applied here in the New York Empire State Building. It was never used for that. It was never practical. I mean, it was hard enough getting the Zeppelins to moor at Lakehurst and other locations outside of town. So, yeah, at any rate, thought I'd mention that. Sean, KB5SOK, your thoughts on characterization from KE5ICX?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, yeah, I think everybody's pretty well said it. Very, very one-dimensional characters. Out the badge probably was my favorite of the bunch. I think she showed the most depth out of all of them. For some reason, the hero, Joe, he never really felt like a hero. He just didn't seem to, I don't know, something was just off with his character. I'm not sure if it was just the way it was written or his particular acting style, but it just didn't really feel like a hero, even though obviously he was supposed to be. But yeah, the characters were very one-dimensional, and even though they're kind of going with the comic book feel, there's no reason why you still can't develop characters. I've seen some comic books where they do dive very deep into characters, and they usually love to give you the backstory, and you know why the way they are, and they just didn't do any of that in this film. Just very flat. I think that was even part of the problem with it as well. I think the best character was the airplane. But then again, I like planes and ships and that kind of stuff. So, but that might have been the best. I will say a couple of the Easter eggs were kind of funny. I do agree with that. That was fun. I like it when the movies do that. So that might have been my favorite part of the whole film. But not a lot to say about the characters. Very, very flat. Not a lot there. Back to net. KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. Yeah, okay, I'm going to make my comments on characterization. I agree with everybody's comments, and I'm going to rehash what was said. Yeah, characters were pretty one-dimensional. Now, the one guy who was the newspaper editor, I guess, for the Chronicle, Michael Gambon, played Pally. I know I've seen this guy before. I went back and checked his bio to see what he had done, and he has a wonderful voice. It says here that he trained under Laurence Olivier. Well, that makes sense. You see here real quick. He's in the Harry Potter. He played Professor Albus Dumbledore in the Harry Potter series from 2004 to 2011. And to be honest with you, I've not really sat through all those Harry Potter films. I always end up seeing the broom race over and over again because that's the only thing. But he's been around. The voice is great. I really like his delivery is really wonderful. The one character that really did a nice job, who had been dead for 13 years, was Laurence Olivier, who was digitally recreated as a younger man as Dr. Totenkopf. I thought that was a pretty amazing thing to do. Of course, it was in the guise of a television-like screen, and they were able to make that happen. So that worked out really well. I thought he actually made the film. Now, there are relatives. Jude Law's father was in this thing. Peter Law, that's Dr. Kessler, one of the missing scientists. And I think there's somebody else also. I was looking here. I don't know. At any rate, those come up into the film, and I thought that was pretty interesting. Angelina Jolie, who they say only spent 3 days filming for this thing, as Commander Frankie Cook. I thought she was pretty good. It was rather enjoyable in an outrageous way. Of course, she looked great in that whole get-up that she had going, including the eye patch. What a nice artistic accent, the eye patch. Now, this is doggone it. What is it? I was going to say Coppola. It's not Coppola. It's De Laurentiis. De Laurentiis was always known. Dino De Laurentiis had done all sort of the lower budget films. Did Dune, first time around. The new one, I think, is superior, but at any rate, the De Laurentiis family. I was laughing and I say, who pays for these things? And the De Laurentiis. And I think it's kind of interesting because I always wondered, were they with the mob or something? Did they funnel money laundering through that film company? Because sometimes they would pick some real stinkers and some really weird films to finance and throw their money at. And I think this is one of them with an untested director. They just decided, let's do it, and they did. And were fairly successful, although they say they lost money on the film. I think they made money. I think they actually exaggerated the cost of the film, as they always do with films, so that people who are looking for a percentage end up getting less of it because the bottom line is less. The net is not as great because they've inflated the cost. So I guess I'll say that, was it Cox? He was annoying. I wanted to take and strangle him and take his Dax. I think it was Dax. Take that gum he kept chewing for 1,000 years and take it and throw it in the trash like a teacher, an instructor. It just seemed like, ugh. That drives me nuts when I see that. But he's supposed to be one of those jet-jod guys that, takes care of the aircrafts back at the FBO and that, at the base to make sure everything runs the way it's supposed to. And it's a prop, I guess. We couldn't use cigarettes anymore. I didn't see any cigarettes anywhere in the film, so I guess the gum is a replacement for that. Okie dokie, so that's my comments on all of that. All right, we'll take another round. This one's technical, the technical pieces of it. This one is, did you like the music? What did you think of that was very good about the special effects and not so good? How did it influence films going forward? Did you like the sepia tone? Did that work? Was it annoying? Was the film blurry or sharp enough for you to enjoy it? Were the camera angles, all that stuff, did that work? There you go. I just threw a bunch of things out that you can take notes on and say good, bad, or the ugly. So we'll start at the top. Bill, N5BB, your thoughts on all things technical with this film from KE5ICX.
Very good, Tom. K5ICX, N5BB. Well, I've got some direct comments. There's an amateur radio connection, believe it or not. So when they get the machine that was damaged and dead or whatever, disabled, when they pulled into their massive blimp hangar, Dex tells Joe, hey, I want you to come see this. And he pulls him over to a radio receiver. It is a Hallicrafters S20R, and in one shot, you can see the marketing name that Hallicrafters used for that. It wasn't accidental. The name is Sky Champion. So the Sky Champion receiver was in the Sky Captain movie. And that obviously was not a mistake. And what they did, they chose some close-ups, but what they did is on the right-hand side of the receiver, as you look at it, there's normally a speaker with a speaker grill with the lowercase Art Deco lowercase letter H for Hallicrafters in it. And they replaced that, probably with CGI, with an oscilloscope but to me, it looked like maybe an early television or radar scope. It didn't look exactly like a conventional oscilloscope. It had some kind of weird markings on it. But my guess is that they just did that with CGI, so he didn't have to go and ruin a particularly nice radio. So the Sky Champion receiver was there that Dex was listening to, and they heard some stuff on there, and Joe said, "Is that Morse code?" It sounded nothing like Morse code. So that was kind of stupid, because a pilot would have had to know Morse code back then, because he was actually sending Morse code at one point, I believe. I think I saw him sending Morse code, or somebody was. So it was silly for him not to recognize that wasn't Morse code. Anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting. They put a real receiver in there, a Sky Champion. Break. And this was, a 2004 movie? Is that right? It's been a while. And the CGI, I guess they didn't want to spend too incredible amount of money on it. And seems like when he lands at their base, it's pretty crude when you really look at it in detail. It's obviously a cartoonish view of the whole thing. So they kind of make it fuzzy, I think, in some places, so you don't have to look at the CGI very carefully. Was that annoying? Well, slightly. They just didn't spend the big bucks, or didn't have the expertise to make it look super sharp and clear and realistic. Most of it, though, it was fooling you. So for a cartoonish movie, kind of a superhero cartoonish movie, it was good enough. What else? The music was okay. None of the CGI completely turned me off. It was a little aggravating in a few places, but it wasn't too bad. Again, I'll repeat my comment. I think the humongous machines going through downtown was stupid, although they obviously were trying to, relate this to War of the Worlds. That's all I've got in 5BB. Oh, and I did like the movie in 5BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. And thanks for the comments on the holocraft. I forgot about that. And yeah, I noticed the oscilloscope thing on to the right, kind of a nice touch. And I do vaguely remember that it would probably be, you pointed it out that the speaker would be sitting next to it. But I did see the holocrafters just for a second. I thought, that's cool. All right, very good. Next up is Chaz. Chaz, so your thoughts, special effects? There's something that gravitated you to this movie, so maybe this was a part of it. Over to you, KE5ICX. Oh, he may have gone to bed. KF5JHA, are you still there? I figured as much. It's way past his bedtime. And he's an astronomer. W5DLT, Bill, your thoughts on anything you want, technical, special effects, music, you name it, you can talk about it. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
W5BLT, I obviously can't comment on the visual effects with the visual impairment, but I enjoy everybody's takes on the movie, because obviously getting the sound, I miss all those cool things that they put in visually, which I appreciate you guys doing that, because it gives me a better feel for the movie. I liked it. I liked the sound effects, the music, It just kind of added to the drama and the feel of the movie. I appreciate good surround sound, so that was nice. You know, things flying across the room are always a good thing in an action-packed movie. You know, again, it was just a fun kind of movie that I honestly was pleasantly surprised. Didn't expect a lot going into it. I thought the dialogue was clear. Sometimes in the newer movies, it is really hard to hear, and you know, because they overdo the effects, or the voice volume is not mixed correctly. So this was just a fun overall movie, that's just to relax and enjoy a movie. So I appreciated the way they mixed everything sound-wise. And my battery is getting ready to die. Not sure if I'll make it to the next go-around, but we'll try. W5BLT.
All right, thank you, Bill. And just a head, excuse me, for a heads up, I'll open it to anything, any final comments, and that'll be whoever wants to talk, rather than down the list. And I'm going to interject this. I'm with you. A lot of times I can't understand the dialogue in movies, and quite frankly, when I'm watching at home on, on my TV, I'll throw the closed captions on, because sometimes I cannot understand what the heck they're saying. It's really hard to tell. So I'm with you on that. W5EBB, David, your thoughts on anything you want, technical, special effects, music, you name it, from KE5ICX.
Speaking of that, Ninophrenia, that movie, I meant to make this comment about that. They made that mistake also. The music was sometimes obscuring the dialogue, and so that was, just a beginner's mistake, I think. But you do see it in big production movies, too. And, yeah, closed caption, I usually turn those things on, too. And I wanted to follow up on Jay's comment, that not all movies derived from comic books or graphic novels are silly and shallow. And I think he was referring to Tom Hanks' Road to Perdition, which I haven't seen. But for me, The Watchmen comes to mind as a movie based on a graphic novel with very deep and relevant themes. A Scanner Darkly, also very stylish and deep in its social commentary and themes. Though it wasn't based on a graphic novel, it might be considered a direct-to-movie format graphic novel in how it was done, written and directed by Richard Linklater. But this movie is mostly about style, and it's effective. The sepia glamour glow look works. And this movie was on the leading edge for using CGI backgrounds, which is common today, and of course has been extended to completely CGI characters. Technology has advanced to the point where it's getting harder to tell what's real and, whether it even matters anymore. And in that way, this movie, though it lost money, I think sometimes movies like this or projects like this get funded because they know they're going to be progenitors for the things to come. And in this case, it's the prolific use of CGI in future movies. And I did enjoy the soundtrack. It was real music with actual themes played with an actual orchestra. One way you can tell if it's a real orchestra is to listen for misplayed notes, also called clinkers, boners, or clams, very common in the brass section, especially the French horn, where they miss notes a lot. And at the beginning of the end credits, you can hear one of the French horn players hit a clam. And but the music generally, it reminded me a lot of music from Galaxy Quest, which I like too. And you can also say that it harkens back to the swashbuckling music, from the Errol Flynn, Robin Hood, or of course Star Wars. The music and its overtures and fanfares are somewhat over the top and corny, but it works, and I liked it. W5EBB.
Very good. I agree with a lot of that. I'll come back to my comments in a bit. But David, you're right about the music and the style and even the motivations. I agree with you. KG5BZWJ. Any final comments? What do you want to say about the technical aspects of the film? Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
Okay, so KG5BGW here. Sorry, we're starting here, but I have to confess to being a little bit surprised about how Laurence Olivier started in this film. That was pretty good. It was a little bit of I didn't realize that was Laurence Olivier being projected as that. Not projection. I guess it literally was a projection of some sort. But I have to admit, the character looked familiar, and I was like, I wonder who that is. Interesting looking guy. And of course, it's Laurence Olivier, who's been, he certainly hadn't been looking like that for a while. I know he died in 1989, but yeah, that was pretty good digital manipulation, because I detected something that was off, but it could have been just the way they protected it or whatever. They hid their manipulation very well, and I did not realize that was just old, I looked it up, there's old BBC footage of him that had been manipulated to, say whatever they wanted him to say. Now, obviously, there's other films that had, there was digital manipulation from, way back. Obviously, Forrest Gump has all kinds of stuff. And that was, I don't remember when that was. Still, that was pretty good. I have to give him, 2 thumbs up on that. The other people have mentioned how in some places the CGI was a little bit, crude and whatnot, but considering how much CGI was in the film, you can't expect it all to be perfect. So it's not bad. It's not perfect either. You could make an argument that some of the stuff would really have looked a lot better if they had used conventional. I think you would actually, that would be a winnable argument, but considering what was already invested and all, what they were trying to do, I guess, I guess it's forgivable. Anyway, that's all I got. KG5BGW, back to that.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Jay. Brenda, WB50ZL, your thoughts on all things technical from KE5ICX. Uh-oh, we may have lost her. WB50ZL, Brenda, your comments on anything technical involving the movie from KE5ICX.
This is WB50ZL. I may have dozed off. I don't know. Technical things. Well, I loved all of the technical whiz-bang stuff from the 30s. There was a slide rule in a brief scene, which, that was nice. I do want to go back to the Zeppelins at the Empire State Building. I did some research. these last few minutes online, and that was something everybody talked about. They had great plans for it. There was a mast up there for mooring Zeppelins, but only once did a Zeppelin ever get moored there, and only for about 30 minutes. Basically, it's just too windy up there. It's 30, 40 winds all the time, and just not safe to try and deboard passengers like that. So there are lots of pictures that look like they're doing it, and they're all fakes. They're composite photos. So, well, it was a good idea. You know, and the pictures are pretty cool looking. You know, a lot of technology in this. If you were actually in the 30s, this would look pretty fantastic, I think. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. WB50 said Eau Claire.
All right, thank you, Brenda. See, I wasn't crazy. There was a mooring mast up there. Well, it's hard to miss for the Zeppelins to land, or more, I should say. KB5S, okay, Sean, your comments on special effects, music, you name it, lighting, anything you want, from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9S, okay. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, for me, it's just, you know, I like the Art Deco look. I think had this film been made today, I would have been a much bigger fan of it because it would have looked so much more real and probably would have enjoyed it much more. But I get it, you know, and as I said earlier, you know, this film was really probably just testing. You know, obviously it was the first of its kind. You know, somebody's got to dip their toe in the water, right? And they did in this film. You know, could it be done? All CG, so I guess somebody had to go first. So yeah, that's understandable. But on the positive side is I do agree about the music. I thought the music was good. I did like that very much. The sound effects were quite excellent. Maybe a little too excellent. I'm sure my neighbors didn't appreciate the surround sound. So that part was good. I did enjoy the audio. And like I just said, yes, it gets very frustrating with many movies these days that the music and the sound effects overpower the voices, and it drives me crazy, something that drives my father crazy as well. So yes, I've also used closed captioning before, but I didn't have to at this film. So that is definitely a positive. You know, once again, I mean, it was, I think, a good concept. It just didn't quite get there, at least for me personally. But it's been very interesting hearing other people's thoughts on it. So yeah, back to net, KB9S, okay?
All right, very good, Sean. I'll add to some of the comments, only that, yes, I first off, I love the music. I thought they did a really nice job with it. Records, which if you're a film score fan, La La Land Records, go look them up online, produces full scores, recorded scores, sometimes remastered recordings from motion pictures, and they typically will put out a 2-disc set. The soundtrack originally came out on Sony Classical recordings with 18 tracks. When the La La Land Records version came out, it had, 32 tracks on 2 discs. That's not unusual for them. So if you really find a score that you like and you're willing to spend a little extra money on these, I don't think it's out of range of most users, but or most consumers. But I think that they do a really, really good job. Their recordings and this music really applied. I thought it was really well done. The special effects kind of talked about all the way around. I thought it was really well done. I enjoyed that quite a bit. There was some mention about, you know, are we going to reproduce characters that we can see? Well, they did it with Olivier, of course. But there was also, you know, what happens? Do you get the uncanny valley, which is essentially what characters, how they appear? Will they be convincing? I got to remember after midnight we go back onto regular time, so I got to drop carrier every once in a while. Otherwise, it'll time out. Although it didn't tonight, earlier, in between nets. Anyway, was it Governor Tarkin, which is reproduced? I thought, he doesn't look like it. It looked okay, but we'll just have to see. But I digress on that. Anything else? I think that was it. I can't remember anything. I think we covered just about everything in the film. But overall, I enjoyed it, and I did buy the DVD, so I must have liked it. I just hadn't watched it in a while, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was a nice, pleasant return to a fun movie. Okay, I'm going to open it up. If anybody has any final comments that they want to bring, it doesn't matter what it is, just come with your call sign, and then I'll call on you.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo.
All right, Bill, you're last on the there. Go ahead with your comments, and then I'll give you what next week's movie will be. Go ahead, Bill.
Thanks, Tom. Well, thanks to you or whomever for selecting this movie. I'm glad I saw it, and it was interesting and interesting use of CGI and everything. The second thing is involving the repeater. Has anybody checked that the clock is right? Daylight saving time switch was 2 weeks ago. Somebody might want to confirm that. Good evening, in 5BB.
Okay, Bill, I think it is, because at midnight is on Saturdays. It's when it returns to normal use. So it's midnight and it's returned to normal use. I think it's okay. We had open mic earlier and it just kept going and going and going. Usually the repeater will time out. This time it did not, but at the same time we were in the middle of nets and things, and maybe it just still thought it was during a net. I couldn't tell because I couldn't hear the confirmation tone afterwards, but I don't know. At any rate, I think the time is correct. Okay, let me see here. Next week's film, let me pull this over here. I'm going to move something up. I think it was David suggested a movie, and I'm going to move it up on the list. It's called Midnight Special from 2016. So we're going to throw that baby in there. I found it online. Don't know anything about it, but we're going to go ahead and do it next week. The movie will be Midnight Special. I think everybody here knows and can find how to get the movie information, but if you are listening and had not checked in, let me reset. You can go ahead and sign up on Facebook for Afterglow Movie. That's 2 words, Afterglow and Movie. And just sign in there, and then you'll find the list of movies that are presented, as well as some potential candidates going forward. And I found a bunch of new ones here that we've never seen before. I think will be a lot of fun, including a favorite of mine, but I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want to confuse everybody. But of what next week's film is. But there's a favorite in here that has not been available that I want to put on the list. Let's see. So the other thing is, if you don't like Facebook or that sort of thing, send me an email saying you want to be on the list, and I send that out usually Sunday morning with the next week's movie and the links to those films. So send an email to me, KE5ICX, Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, at yahoo.com, and say you want to be on the list, and I'll put you there. All right, I'm going to say 7-3 to everybody. Have a good evening. Thanks all. We'll see you here next week. This is KE5ICX. I'm clear.
Well, Tom, thanks for bumping